You're listening to Greater Good Radio Hawaii. Please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. Today's guest is Andrew Aoki, principal and co-founder of 3 Point Consulting, LLC, and College Connections Hawaii.
So with College Connections, do you think that you were kind of passionate about that because of your educational background? I mean, you went to Stanford, Harvard, University of Michigan. You have a lot of degrees. Is that one of the reasons why you wanted to do it?
Yeah, I tell people that I try to be useful despite all that education, actually. I mean, if there's one thing, part of it was at that point we realized if there's one thing we know how to do, it's apply to schools. And if we can share that with the world. I mean, obviously I've had some success with that. I mean, I've been really lucky to have that. And I guess as I look back on my life, it's all a product in many ways of good fortune. I'm humbled by the amount of help I've gotten just to be where I am. And I think there's something fundamentally unfair about a society where you can't access that just because you can't afford it. I mean, there's a lot of kids that have as much or far more potential than I ever had, when I was a kid, but because they can't take a prep class or they can't go to just get the information about the schools that they can go to, they can't go. I mean, that's crazy, right? So, it's kind of a product, and I guess in some ways of that, and feeling like people need to be able to access that.
What age are they able to seek your services?
Yeah, we do actually. We started doing tutoring a couple of years back for K to 6 or K to 12 actually. So basically from then all the way through high school, and then even college age. I mean, we've worked with some kids when we just got started out. When we started out, like I did, me and Ren, the person I started with, did everything. I mean, we did the counseling, the fundraising, all that stuff. And so we've worked with kids that are transferring from a 2-year to a 4-year school, things like that. So I think we need to develop services for people beyond that as well.
I was wondering if you had an instance where maybe there was a child growing up knew that they couldn't financially afford maybe the tests or even getting into college. So then they kind of lacked on their studies. Then they realized that these services are available for them. So you or your services help to motivate them because they saw a path to be able to get into college. Mm-hmm. Are you able to share a story with us?
I mean, that has to start really early on, right? So, a lot of times counseling at public schools doesn't kick in. It can't because they don't have enough people really kick in until junior year in high school. But by then, if you've already decided you can't do it or you can't afford it or I'm not smart enough or whatever, it's kind of too late, right? So, I mean, start skewing a lot of services a lot earlier into even middle school to start talking to parents. And that's, if you go to, people have gone to like the elite private schools in Hawaii. That's when they start, right? You go to like Iolani or something at 7th grade, and they tell you you're going to go to 4-year college at that point. I mean, how many public school students get that message?
It's not even a question, and it's not even a question that you're going away.
That's right.
Right? You don't even think about it. It's like, well, I'm going to college and I'm going away.
Which is also kind of sad too, because a lot of those kids go without really having really thought about it that much, right? Like how I went. I mean, I just went to U.S. News and World Report, picked some schools, and said, "Yeah, I'll go there." But I had no clue. I mean, all of us, private school, public school, I mean, could use some good assistance, and the counselors are there, and that's awesome. And I think there's room for more help as well.
So for our audience, which is our primary, they have younger kids, what would you recommend for them to prepare their kids in order to be prepared to get into colleges and name brand colleges and pay for it and so on?
Well, that's a funny question actually, because I have 2 young kids myself, and think about this all the time. It's taking on an all new meaning, right? And one of the big questions people have is, do I have to? Some people wrestle with is, do I need to get my kid into a private school early on? And I mean, I didn't go to private school all my life. I went for high school, kind of reluctantly even at that, but it was huge in terms of the opportunities that were opened up. I think you got to enjoy learning, and so a lot of people like drill their kids in like flashcards and things like this. I mean, there's nothing that beats actually liking to read because you like the stories in them, or liking math because it's useful, because it helps you do stuff, cook or do science things or build things, That's the love of learning. And that happens really early on. And public school or private school, it doesn't matter. If you don't love learning at an early age, I mean, you're not going to have the foundation to really love it enough to do all the hell that you have to go through to get into college.
So you helped to start a couple of these businesses, and yet you're still very involved in the community. I mean, your businesses help the community also, but you're involved in the Women's Coalition and Hawaii Community Services and the National Kidney Foundation. You know, you serve on the boards of these. How are you able to do your businesses, balance your family, and still yet be involved with these other organizations in the community?
Yeah, that's the thing that makes me think of it is, have I been able to balance all those things? I don't know. You should ask my wife that. Probably, I have a strong sense, I think, of the priorities in my life and also what I need, right? So, and like I said, I don't need that much. So I don't work until I can't work anymore. Or I don't try and make as much money as I possibly can. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't. So there's plenty of free time, actually, if you do that. You have to be super efficient, I think, with your time. Make sure you're spending it on the right things. And I'm no master at this. I haven't mastered it yet, but I try very hard to invest in family and in the community and make sure the things that I am involved in, I can have adequate time to do them. And when I can't, I stop. I move on to other things.
So would you recommend for other young people to get involved with community-based organizations also, even though they have families and busy schedules and a professional career to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, not only would I recommend that, I guess I kind of feel like we have an obligation to do that. I mean, if our society is going to get better, and if you have young kids and you think about the world they're going to live in years from now, if you want them to live in a place that's safe and they can bring out the full quality of their life, you're going to have to invest in the public good now.
Thanks for joining us today on Greater Good Radio. For more information or a transcript of today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. This is your host, Evan Leong and Carrie Leong, saying please join us next time for another episode of Greater Good Radio Hawaii.